morning, Dad. Okay, it's his 80th birthday.
And it's wonderful. It's sad when funerals happen, but it's a chance to come together, and I'm grateful for that. And I know he's probably sitting here right now enjoying his own service, is my guess. I guess I want to talk a little bit about what I've learned from him, and I've learned a lot. First of all, he loved nature. He was really living in harmony up on the farm. I always loved the birds. He studied the birds so much, and he was always designing aircraft based on the wings and the flight patterns. And there's so many stories. I'll tell one really quick one about my dad. He was watching Harold and I were standing at Point Peely, and a goose was coming in. We heard another goose honking, and we sort of stopped to watch what would happen. And this goose is in the water, another goose is flying in, responding to the honking, and we just hear Dad say under his breath, "Don't land downwind." And this goose comes in and crashes into the other goose, and they were head over heels, and we're like looking at my dad, how did you figure that out? So he was all about nature, all about farming. Oh my goodness, I never thought we'd ever rip him off the farm, but he went up there every day, and his sweet peas are woven into the bouquet up here. He used to pick those and sell them on the farmer's market, and farming was everything for him after he retired from the Air Force. I mean, what landed him here was a heart attack. And he's had, as you know, most of you know, he's had a series of heart problems. And something that I learned from my dad is that years ago, he was kind of political, and he'd get kind of upset about politics, and he'd kind of hold on to that anger. And he was really ticked off about Pierre Trudeau. And he'd get so upset about Trudeau. And when he was listening, about 14, 15 years ago, he was listening to CBC, and there was this program about Pierre Trudeau, and my dad just got so angry, and he had his first heart attack. So he calmed down a little bit after that, but he was really upset about the political situation between Quebec and Canada. And when he was in the Air Force, that upset him quite a bit, and he'd get riled up about that. And then he had a Quebec student that he was teaching, and he said, you know, that student was the best student I ever had, and after that, he had no issues with Quebec. He really loved people, and he appreciated everybody in this room, and he had that quirky sense of humor, and he always laughed at everything, and he faced adversity head on. And so I guess those are the things I learned, was to let go of anger, to just face adversity head on, and just keep going, and there it is. So thank you so much for being here. I know he's with all of you right now, and you're in his hearts. Thank you.
Anyone present here, God's calling him or her to come here to say a few words and say goodbye to Calder, it's your time. Please come.
It was quite an honor to me at that time to be told that, because he was one of those people that I held in pretty high admiration. And I think most of the Roses shared that same feeling, the love of the land and appreciation for the nature and the world around them. And I think those are things that probably a good idea, and probably something that's been passed on to the next generation too. And I think that one Rose appreciates another Rose for that same type of same type of appreciation that they share. Anyway, like I say, I had nothing prepared, and what I'm saying isn't very polished, but anyway, thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to also say how nice it was to see everybody and reconnect with the Roses and all our connection with Auntie Flo and marketing and yeah, what George was saying, we all have connections and yeah, and the sweet peas in the funeral spray and all those kinds of things. Some of the things I remember about my dad, about the farm, is he always had a shovel sticking out of the ground. And every time I went there, the shovel was always there. And that was because a song sparrow liked to land on that shovel. So that was there for the song sparrow. And he always loved the fact deer walked through the land. And I used to go visit Dad and we pick tomatoes together. That was what we did together. We picked tomatoes together, and then I'd go to the market with him, and we'd stand on the market together. And that way, that's how my dad and I talked to each other, basically, because he was a very kind of quiet guy. I'd phone him, and we'd say, "Hi, how are you?" And I'd say, "Oh, I've got nuthatches in my bird nest this year, and how's your flowers, Dad, and how's your orchid doing?" And we talk about, you know, flowers and orchids and birds and how the weather was and how I'd hoed the garden and that kind of stuff. But the best of all was being able to come back and visit him and just be beside him, picking tomatoes. That was just one of my favorite movies. Thanks.
I was just going to share, my mother Alice was Walter's oldest sister. She probably helped raise him. When she turned 90, which was about 5 years ago, he drove all the way up to our place at Lindsay to celebrate her birthday. They shared a birthday together. They had the same date. And that was very special to her because they were the only two left of the siblings, and it was very special to me too.
I do this with some hesitation because I'm relatively the new boy on the block. I've had the pleasure of knowing Wally for only about 10 years. My name is Jack Williams. And as you know, many of us got together at McDonald's every morning for our start of the day coffee. And that's really where I got to know Wally. And I was always an Air Force buff, while Wally was an actual flyer. He was a guy who really did it. I was a guy that just talked about it. And I remember we were sitting there one day, and I happened to mention to him that I was going to go up to War Plain Heritage. And he said, "Well, would you do me a favor, Jack?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "Would you jot down all the registration tailplane numbers of the aircraft?" So I did. And I gave him the list afterwards. The next morning he'd come in, and he had kept his log books from his Air Force days for the full 25 years. And he'd gone through every book, and he identified actually 4 aircraft up there that he had actually flown. And there's one up there now, it's painted gold. It's an F-86 Sabre jet, and that was his actual plane in Europe. Well, how many guys can say that? But anyways, knowing he was such an Air Force buff, I know he's up there flying around now with his other fellow Air Force pilots. And it reminds me of the closing lines of a favorite Air Force poem of mine. And I may not have it exactly, but it basically said, "I hurtled my aircraft through the boundless skies and reached out and touched the face of God." And that's what Wally's doing today. Thank you. Okay.